5, KTLA, Los Angeles.
I haven't been home since just shortly after noon yesterday. I'm sure when I go home later tonight, the thoughts of this thing are going to ring back through. What could we have done? And unfortunately, there was nothing.
Tonight on News at 10, the investigation into Los Angeles' worst air disaster. A special look at air safety in the Los Angeles area. Another plane crash today, this one back east. Muammar Gaddafi threatens the American people. Labor Day observed across the United States. This man gets a call from the president.
I think all Americans join me in realizing what you have been for the last 35 years.
Demonstrations today at the beach. The Angels Express runs smack into the wall. And a nightmare experience for a 5-year-old boy.
Relax, stay still.
Channel 5 News at 10, the #1 primetime news hour in Los Angeles. Now, award-winning Hal Fishman, T.U. Lake, Larry McCormick, Keith Olbermann with sports, and the entire Channel 5 news team.
Good evening. Investigators have identified the pilot of the light plane that collided with an Aeromexico DC-9 as William Kramer, a former Kaiser Aluminum Company executive from Spokane, Washington. An autopsy reveals that Kramer died from injuries sustained in the crash and from a heart attack. The coroner's report does not make it clear if Kramer suffered the heart attack prior to the crash or after the crash with the jetliner. Warren Wilson reports on other developments in today's investigation.
This was the day after, and the smoke had settled, the damage assessed, and the grim task of searching for bodies fell into the hands of coroner's investigators. In one location alone, 14 bodies were recovered. Officials say they don't know if they were all passengers or if they were occupants of a house where 7 people are thought to have been trapped.
They were able to identify and determine the pilot of the aircraft, and I understand now the coroner's office is going to perform an autopsy on the pilot, which is a normal procedure.
An autopsy may tell federal investigators something about the crash. Right now, it is unclear what happened in the clear blue sky over this working-class community of Cerritos. The horizontal stabilizer on the tail of the DC-9 was found intact a few blocks from the main jetliner wreckage. The loss of the tail section made the DC-9 uncontrollable. NTSB officials say the stabilizer appears to contain paint scrapings from the other plane.
The most notable thing about the Piper aircraft is that the cabin was sheared horizontally through the cabin at about the occupant shoulder height. So the upper part of the cabin is missing along the entire length. It just completely sheared open and is missing.
Investigators are now examining radar and computer records at the LAX control tower and the transponder aboard the small plane. That transponder was found with the switch in the on position and with the code setting that indicates the pilot had not been cleared by Los Angeles Air Traffic Control.
We found the code switches on the transponder set to 1200, which is a normal code for VFR aircraft not in or operating within so-called positive control airspace. The best information that we have available at this point is that he was not in contact with the appropriate control facility for the TCA airspace. That's the most we can say.
Officials from Aeromexico's Los Angeles office visited the crash scene today, inspecting the stark remains of the 16 homes destroyed or damaged. Insurance claims and other losses will be in the hundreds of millions of dollars. This afternoon, officials brought in heavy equipment to assist in the search for more bodies and pieces of the wreckage. This scene will be here for several more days. It may be weeks before the federal government issues a final report on how this tragedy occurred and what may be done to prevent such disasters in the future. From Cerritos, Warren Wilson, Channel 5 News at 10.
All right, right now, let's go live to Steve Lentz at the crash site in Cerritos for the latest on the investigation. Steve?
Hal, what's going on here tonight? As you can see behind me, a number of burned out cars have been stacked up here tonight. There's also some airplane fuselage wreckage. Now that wreckage will be removed tomorrow morning. It will be taken to Long Beach Airport, where NTSB investigators will try to piece back some of that wreckage and further study it along with that Piper 28, which also went down. They will take it there. Now the black box, the recorders, both the voice cockpit recorder and the other recorder, which were in the Aeromexico jet, are being flown tonight to Washington, D.C., where they will be analyzed. There is some preliminary information on that tonight, and we were told of that information just a little bit earlier in a news conference, that they were able to find things such as the Aeromexico plane was descending through 6,500 feet when the crash occurred, and both planes appeared to be in a left bank, meaning that they were both turning left into each other. And the light plane went up the wing of the Aeromexico jet, then sheared off the stabilizer, which is up at the tail of that Aeromexico jet, of course, then causing it to spiral over and come down and crash here tonight. The scene here tonight, of course, is a gruesome one. People are only being allowed back in here with escorts from the sheriff's department. So that means that some people here are still out of their homes in the worst perimeter area. What is happening is that they're still going through this area looking for either bodies or missing persons. The Red Cross says tonight up to 17 people may still be missing. Now, of course, they don't know right now whether all of those who are missing are accounted for either by being on vacation or whether they might be dead at this point. They don't know. What will happen next is they'll take those planes back, analyze the voice cockpit recorder, and at one point also the air traffic controller on duty has submitted to take a drug test tomorrow. Reporting live from Cerritos, I'm Steve Lentz. Back to you, Hal.
A Cerritos man, 46-year-old Al Francis, managed to snap a photograph of the Aeromexico jet as it dove toward the ground. Francis was just about to take a picture of his granddaughter and her kitten when he heard an explosion. The amateur photographer looked up and saw the jetliner begin its dive. The photo shows the plane almost inverted, heading toward Earth after that collision. Francis says the plane disappeared over the nearby rooftops, and then he heard the explosion. To you.
Governor George Deukmejian toured the crash site this afternoon, accompanied by leaders of the emergency crews who helped in the aftermath of yesterday's tragedy. The governor saw the wreckage firsthand and said that the accident touched him personally because, as a state senator, he represented the district where the crash occurred yesterday.
It's shocking, and it's very sad, and the only other thing I can say is that certainly all of our state agencies will continue to do what we can to be of assistance as we have from the time that the incident occurred.
Governor Deukmejian stopped short of declaring the neighborhood a disaster area, but he promised to consider any such request if one is made. And residents of the Cerritos neighborhood where the DC-9 went down are trying to sort out details of yesterday's crash as they also deal with the emotional distress caused by the accident. Pam Thompson reports.
Many of the residents of this quiet neighborhood spent the day standing out on their lawns, looking at the damage and trying to make sense of it all.
We know we're lucky to be here. Just a little swerve and we'd have had it.
Jeff Kingsbury got his video camera out.
My kids and I were out in front of the house when it came down. We saw it, and I didn't know if I wanted anything to remind us of what had happened. And then I decided to go ahead. This is the first time I've taken it out. I decided before they start cleaning everything up to go ahead and take a little bit of the, film, so we can look back on it, so we can, count our blessings and how lucky we were to survive it.
Police restricted the area so people who were home at the time of the accident were allowed to stay, but anyone who left or wasn't home couldn't come back.
We have people that have left the area that have animals in their houses and they can't get to it, so they've been calling me as a point of contact, and I've been going into their houses and getting the animals out and taking care of them from some of our good friends.
Then we were walking up down the street, getting grocery orders together, coordinating that with the Red Cross, and trying to get our lives in a normal mode again.
Some of the residents who couldn't get back to their homes went to the Red Cross shelter at Cerritos High School. The Wong family was out of town until today.
I can't even imagine, because I haven't seen the area, and I was actually thinking that maybe we should prepare ourselves, probably, to see before we can prepare the kids.
People who couldn't get back to the area were frustrated, but the residents who were home still had to put up with the frustration of having their neighborhood crowded with police and the media.
The impact hasn't really hit right now. A few days from now, when everybody's gone home and we're sitting here staring at it, I think it'll start to sink in what's really happened and the people that are gone, and we won't see them again.
It'll be months, maybe longer, before this neighborhood is restored to the way it looked before the plane crash. But the emotional scars will remain long after the physical evidence is cleared away. In Cerritos, Pam Thompson, Channel 5, News at 10.
The cause of yesterday's mid-air collision is already known. Both pilots failed to see and avoid each other in the clear skies of the Los Angeles basin. As a matter of fact, most mid-air collisions occur in clear skies and near airports. What investigators must determine are the factors that led to both aircraft being in the same place at the same time. The most important determinant will, of course, be the altitude at which the collision occurred. Either the jet was not in its protected airspace, or the light plane strayed into that airspace without permission. The aeronautical charts show a block of airspace over Cerritos between 6,000 and 7,000 feet reserved for aircraft under positive radar control. It's only 1,000 feet thick at that point, and an error of merely a few hundred feet in the altimeters of either plane or both could have contributed to the disaster. A vitally important point is that the technology now exists to prevent such a tragedy. Collision avoidance systems have been demonstrated for use in aircraft. These sophisticated devices warn a pilot through proximity warning indicators in the cockpit of the presence in the area of another aircraft. These systems can even tell the pilot what action to take to avoid a mid-air collision. The problem is that at this point, they are very expensive, costing more than the value of many light airplanes. But would it not be wise to install this technology in commercial airplanes? If only that DC-9 had a collision avoidance system, yesterday's tragedy could have been averted. The federal government, which maintains control over the airways, should consider subsidizing such systems if necessary for the public safety. Those of us who fly in large commercial jetliners, and those of us who fly in smaller aircraft, and those of us in our homes on the ground have a right to expect that when aircraft come out of the skies, they land only at airports.
The real beauty of forest lawn is not something you see. It's how you feel talking to a mortuary counselor like Jim Moore.
Over the years, I've worked with thousands of families, and each one is different. But no matter what their beliefs, we make arrangements they'll feel comfortable with.
The real beauty of forest lawn is how much we care.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Really? Yes.
It's Yes Month at Nissan, and your Nissan dealer's making great deals on new trucks. He's saying
yes
to 5.7 Nissan-sponsored financing. So you could save up to $829 on our lowest sticker-priced regular bed, up to $1,980 on this King Cab SE 4x4 with V6 power.
Yes.
Or save with $500 cash back from Nissan.
So see your Nissan dealer, because he's going to say yes.
The name is Nissan.
Now, if your stick shift won't go into gear and what you hear when you touch your clutch is, oh boy, what's that noise? You need AMCO. Sticks and clutches? Here's the right parts. If it's a transmission, it's close to our hearts at AMCO. Fix your stick and don't get stuck. Bring your car or even your truck. Bring it to AMCO. Don't run amok. AAMCO. AMCO, the place for sticks and clutches.
It never fails. First, the lights are dimmed, then the music starts, and there I am at the Joffrey Ballet, and loving every minute of it.
Police patrols are out in force in Huntington Beach tonight, hoping to keep the peace after yesterday's riot that left at least 2 police cars in flames. Giselle Fernandez reports on the tough new approach by police.
If they came looking for trouble, they found it. Police were on them like a hawk today and had tight control. But the beach showed few signs of the mass chaos that terrorized thousands yesterday for hours. The riot erupted when a crowd of drunken men began ripping the bathing suit tops off women in a bikini contest. Hundreds of thousands of spectators on the beach for a big OP surf contest shifted their attention to the uprising. Police ordered the crowd to disperse, and all chaos broke loose. Thousands rushed the lifeguard station and vandalized equipment, burned rescue vehicles totaling $150,000 in damages. Police at first outnumbered said it was a matter of life and death.
Well, it was by far the most frightening thing I've ever been involved in. I've been a policeman almost 8 years now.
It was to the point that nothing else concerned me other than my own safety and getting out of there, because there was so much stuff flying through the air that it would be just a matter of time before I got hit. There's no doubt in my mind.
Today, beachgoers showed where they were hit with police nightsticks.
I was running down here when the police came down the hill, and they were just swinging at everybody. And I was just running in the sand, and I got held up by some bikes, and they just hit me in the back with a nightstick with no real warning or anything.
Local politicians taking a look themselves said the 13 arrests were all out-of-towners and said this crisis has put the surf contest on shaky ground. Although tensions had calmed considerably by today, beachgoers spent the afternoon comparing war stories on the rampage that not only put the world's largest surf contest in jeopardy, it also marked an unfortunate ending to the summer of 1986. In Huntington Beach, Giselle Fernandez, Channel 5, News at 10.
3 people were injured in a massive brawl during a rock concert at the Hollywood Palladium during the night. A concert by Vietnamese new wave groups was underway when several teenage fans began fighting, and the brawl quickly spread to several hundred people. Los Angeles police officers in full riot gear were rushed to restore order at the scene. Most of the 1,500 fans quickly left the area. 1 Palladium security guard and 2 concertgoers suffered injuries during the melee. It's still not known what triggered the fighting. In the downtown area, 11 residents of a burning apartment building, including 2 infants, were injured today when they all jumped from a second-story fire escape. All of the victims were taken by ambulance to nearby hospitals, including one 64-year-old man who was in critical condition, suffering from back injuries. 5 adults and 4 older children were treated for fractures and smoke inhalation outside the building before being taken from the scene. Fire officials say the fire was a minor blaze that was confined to a second-floor hallway, and residents would have been safe if they merely stayed in their rooms. But some of them panicked and jumped from the fire escape to avoid the flames.
On the brighter side of the news today, Labor Day 1986 was celebrated across the country with holiday activities, making the day a festive one. In Chicago, about 40,000 union members marched down Michigan Avenue, many carrying banners to mark their trade. Onlookers lined the street to salute American working men and women on this last holiday of the summer. And parades like this one drew crowds all over America today. Here in Los Angeles, labor officials joined Catholic leaders and elected Democrats at today's annual Catholic Labor Day breakfast. Mayor Bradley made a brief appearance along with Senator Ellen Cranston. The mayor criticized the state administration for what he calls its opposition to organized labor. But he had high praise for the union trade movement, crediting it with the country's high standard of living.
These are your contributions. But more than that, you have made a contribution to the social life of this country, improving civil rights, human rights for all Americans.
Mayor Bradley also expressed his concern about the state's massive drug problem, repeating his call for a single top state official to oversee all drug enforcement and prevention programs.
The results of a new poll show that most Americans drive faster than 55 miles per hour on the highways, but evidently the majority still resist changing the speed limit. Now, the survey found that 85% of the adults polled admit exceeding the 55-mile-an-hour speed limit, and more than half of them do so at least half the time. But 54% oppose changing that law. Time now for Larry McCormick and tonight's Consumer Trends, and welcome back from vacation. Looking very rested, I say.
Thank you very much. Good to be back. Spent the whole time doing pretty much playing tennis and eating.
Oh, well, that's an enviable pastime.
Yes, a little time up at Bear Valley Springs, a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's good to be back, though.
Right.
Well, you were speaking of motorists and the speed limit, and that's the subject of tonight's Consumer Trends report. Motorists take the front seat, you might say, in tonight's report. Auto dealers report the announcement of those new low finance rates have sparked an amazing response over the Labor Day weekend, and prospective buyers made a good showing to shop for low rates. Chrysler Corporation dropped its rates to 2.4% on 24-month financing and slightly higher levels for longer-term loans. They also applied to most of the 1986 models and so far have been attracting customers, we are told, in exceedingly high numbers.
We have been thinking about it for a while, and finally we came up with the conclusion that Chrysler is a good car, and now there's an opportunity to buy a good one because it's a good rate too.
When I got for my money in the bank 5-6%, I can have a year for 3%. So I wouldn't buy now for cash, even I got the cash.
One sales manager says his business more than doubled over the 3-day weekend. He's been working overtime, in fact, just to keep up with the demand. Chrysler, of course, followed the lead of General Motors and Ford when they offered cut rates of 2.9% last week. All three automakers have entered the nation's car wars, and, of course, that's good news for consumers.
Hiding deep in the hills of San Dimas, there's a giant waiting for you. Over 7.5 stories tall, it's out to scare you out of your wits. It's called Dropout. Raging waters, it's more than just a water slide. Minutes from LA, where the 210 meets the 10 in San Dimas. Come join the fun at California's ultimate water adventure park.
Ain't nothing like the real thing, baby. Ain't nothing like the real thing.
Burger King invites you to celebrate real chicken with the Chicken Tenders Meal Combo. Now's the time to get all white meat chicken tenders, large fries, and a medium Pepsi for only $2.69.
Ain't nothing like the real thing.
The Chicken Tenders Meal Combo, now at Burger King. It'd be a shame to miss it.
I'm sorry. I just don't want us to be friends anymore.
Jordache Basics.
So what? Do we look the other way when we pass in the hall? Is that it?
Well, I was thinking of something a little bit more drastic.
Oh, great. Like maybe you want me to move to another state.
No.
Just another part of this one. I don't get it. I thought you do want to be my friend.
I don't.
This fall, a KTLA premiere, The Honeymooners Lost Episodes.
I'm a honeymoon. Every night I see you on TV. I'm going on television.
What'd you say, Ralph?
I'm a honeymoon. It's honeymoon. Wait a minute!
Buried treasures unseen for 30 years.
I got a baseball. I'm a honeymoon.
Premieres September 8th, The Honeymooners Lost Episodes on Channel 5.
In South Africa, 18 people, including a 3-year-old girl, were injured when a bomb went off in a discount store outside the city of Durban today. That bomb was left at a counter where customers checked their parcels while shopping. No one has claimed responsibility for the attack, but the government is blaming the outlawed African National Congress. This is the 9th bombing to hit South Africa since the government imposed a nationwide state of emergency on June 12th. A major gathering of third world leaders, the annual conference of non-aligned nations, opened in Zimbabwe today with strong denunciations of the United States and South Africa. Leaders of Zimbabwe began the meeting by withdrawing the press credentials of 2 journalists from South Africa. South Africa's apartheid policies are a major focus of the gathering. Later, President Daniel Ortega of Nicaragua condemned what he called the foreign aggressions by the United States. And Libyan dictator Muammar Gaddafi also arrived at the gathering and had sharp criticism of United States foreign policy. Earlier in the day, Gaddafi called on the American people to stop supporting the policies of the Reagan administration, or, he said, they must face violence against the Americans all around the world. Gaddafi's remarks came as he celebrated the anniversary of the military coup that brought him to power in 1969. We have satellite coverage for you from Tripoli.
17 years ago, Muammar Gaddafi could well have been like one of these men, just another unheard-of soldier going through his paces at a military parade. But Gaddafi launched a revolution, and 17 years later, this was his parade, his anniversary. The past year, though, did not give him all that much to celebrate. Gaddafi could claim a closer alliance with the Soviet Union, which supplies most of his weaponry. He could claim his people are much better off materially than they were before the revolution, and that he's organized them into the Arab world's most radical nation. But the year also saw his oil income declining further, his isolation in the Arab world deepening, and his shores attacked by U.S. jets. These appearances of the last few days seem to say that Gaddafi is still in control here, despite Western reports that perhaps he was being pushed aside. But then came his 3-hour speech on the eve of Revolution Day, and it's clear Gaddafi will from now on be using the U.S. attack to galvanize his people, to build in their sense that Libyans are the little guys being bullied by the USA. 17 years on, there seems to be little evidence that Gaddafi will soften his radical politics. His anti-U.S. attitude is increasing, while his confidence in himself and his confidence that his people back him appears to be as strong as ever. John Donovan, CNN, Tripoli, Libya.
Rescue operations are underway in the Black Sea, where a Soviet passenger liner sank after colliding with a freighter. Now, that ship, the Admiral Nakimov, can carry as many as 870 passengers. The Soviet news agency TASS says there was loss of life, but they will not elaborate on the number of passengers on the ship or casualties.
In Moscow, the wife of jailed American journalist Nicholas Danilov angrily denounced Soviet authorities today for detaining her husband. Ruth Danilov was allowed to visit her husband for the second time, along with their 15-year-old son Caleb, who returns to the U.S. this week to resume school. Mrs. Danilov says her husband's future is uncertain.
I am very pessimistic because, they found this incriminating information which was planted on him. So, the investigation itself is a complete farce.
Nicholas Danilov is the Moscow correspondent for U.S. News and World Report. He was arrested Saturday in the Lenin Hills section of Moscow after allegedly accepting secret documents. U.S. officials have expressed anger over the arrest. Back in this country, in Texas, Border Patrol agents have taken on new duties. They're on the lookout for drug smugglers. Jonathan Towers reports it's part of a multi-million-dollar program to wipe out drug trafficking.
It was day one of Operation Alliance, the first enforcement drive of President Reagan's new national crusade against drugs. In most ways, it was just another Monday for Border Patrol Supervisor M.S. Dudley, sending Mexicans back across the Rio Grande. But in another way, it wasn't. Agents already occupied trying to catch illegal aliens now have a new authority to search for drugs and arrest suspected smugglers. Border Patrol officers have been making such arrests, but now they hope there will be less interagency paperwork and more convictions. The new $266 million program, coordinated here in El Paso and to be phased in over the next 2 years, will involve sending extra customs, internal revenue, and FBI agents to the border. Mexican President de la Madrid last month rejected a U.S. proposal that would have allowed for cross-border pursuit of small aircraft suspected of drug smuggling. The Mexicans have also expressed concern that Operation Alliance would mean more harassment of aliens crossing the border to find work. But at the El Paso Border Patrol Station and elsewhere along the border, the new program is yet to move into high gear.
At the present time, we are using the same number of personnel that we have. We've redeployed them in rural areas and some of the areas that drugs are coming through, and we have been aware that they're coming through.
When it does move into high gear, the agents will have their new work cut out for them all along the 2,000-mile border with Mexico. Jonathan Towers, CNN, El Paso, Texas.
Next up tonight, a 7-year-old girl receives a liver transplant after an appeal on radio and television. We'll report on a protest demonstration today at Santa Monica Beach. And a young boy, too eager to see the gorillas, accidentally falls into their pit. We'll show you what happened when we come right back.
Hi, I'm Barbara Mandrell, looking for the Visa tag. Here it is on clothes made from Visa, America's Freedom fabric. Made in the USA by Milliken, quality fabric, and so easy to care for. Here's a salad oil stain on Visa and ordinary fabric. Both are dipped into regular detergent. Look, Visa of Dacron releases stains. And needs almost no ironing. So if you love that freedom, look for the Visa tag, America's Freedom fabric.
Summertime. I want a car, my own Firebird. Here at Disneyland. I never won anything in my life. Oh, it's yours. Is it red?
Now's the best time to come to Disneyland because we're in the final week of the greatest gift giveaway ever. One new Pontiac Firebird is given away every day, 3 every Sunday, but only until September 7th. So come on and win at Disneyland while it's still summertime.
I want the car! I want the car! Disneyland!
Circuit City has so many wonderful electronic things all under one roof, it's hard not to get distracted.
I'm here to buy a calculator, and that's all. No browsing, no touchy.
Circuit City can really test your self-control.
Very nice. But it's not a calculator. It's not a calculator.
The most up-to-date selection of brand names, all at Circuit City's guaranteed low prices.
I'm a very weak person.
Circuit City, the intelligent choice.
For 77 years, Antonio Stradivari dedicated himself to making perfect violins. 3 centuries later, they're still perfect. There's a lesson here for business. Focus on your strengths. In California, one bank has always concentrated on serving business. Union Bank. They shape financial instruments for business with the responsiveness of a local bank and the resources of one of the largest financial institutions in the world. If you're in search of business excellence, call the business bank.
In Great Britain, the terrified parents of a 5-year-old boy were unable to help their son today when he fell into the gorilla pen at a zoo in the Channel Islands. But amazingly, the crisis did bring out the gentle side of these giant creatures.
The family looked on helplessly as 5-year-old Levin Merritt lay unconscious 20 feet down in the gorilla pit. He appeared to be in mortal danger as Yambo, a 400-pound lowland gorilla, stood over him, then reached out to touch him. But incredibly, Yambo was simply showing concern for the injured child. He apparently had no intention of harming him. Minutes later, as Levin came round, his parents shouted desperately for him to lie still.
Stay still!
But as he looked round, groggy and frightened, he saw Yambo's enormous form beside him and screamed, terrified. The noise startled Yambo and his family. They headed back towards their pen. At last, 10 minutes after he had fallen, zookeepers and an ambulance man were able to get down to him and start giving essential first aid. 2 stood bravely keeping guard as other gorillas took an interest. Zoo staff are aware these enormous beasts are not always gentle and could easily kill a man. 20 minutes after he fell, Levin was finally lifted out, his arm broken and head injured by the fall.
It's my fault, really. I entirely take the blame. He couldn't see the gorillas, and so I just held him up, and he was holding on the wall and looking over. And then when I turned round to pick up the other one, to hold it, lift him up, he'd actually pulled himself up and actually stood over and obviously fell over.
But Jersey Zoo says it is examining the pen's safety barriers to make sure it can't happen again.
Larry, I'm pleased to report that that boy is listed in satisfactory condition tonight. An incredible story.
It certainly is. Very lucky young man.
Yes.
And the story of a rather fortunate young lady in tonight's Health and Fitness Report, Hal. It's brought to you by Health Plan of America. Tonight, encouraging news about a little girl with a life-threatening liver disease called bilateral atresia. 7-year-old Christina Wilson was a kind of poster girl for the American Liver Foundation. At that group's request, she went on the air with an appeal on behalf of all children who are in need of donor livers.
Hundreds of people die each year waiting for a liver.
Shortly thereafter, Christina's own condition worsened, and at the last minute, a liver became available from a 6-year-old Florida girl who died of a stroke. Following a dramatic 23-hour operation at the Weiler Children's Hospital, Christina's outlook is good now.
30 minutes after she was back in the intensive care unit, she was awake, alert enough to correct people who said she was 6 when she's indeed 7.
Doctors say Christina's progress in the next 2 weeks will be the most critical to her survival. Christina's doctor, Christoph Brelch, made medical history in a previous case by actually cutting down an adult's liver, reducing it by surgery, when a smaller one couldn't be found for a fatally ill 3-year-old boy. That child, unfortunately, ultimately died. And that seems to underscore the need, a very important one nationwide, for more donor organs for children and from children. And that's tonight's Health and Fitness Report. Hal?
Okay, there we have some more Labor Day news for you now. The annual New York City Labor Day Parade was canceled and replaced with a union solidarity meeting. A chorus of ladies' garment workers sang the praises of American-made goods at the function, which only drew about 300 workers. Union leaders say organized labor has experienced hard times, but they hope to reverse the trend.
There's a lot of demoralization, but unions are under attack today. And we have to do everything possible to defend our unions and turn it around and move it forward.
The problems facing labor are such that we better get busy the other 364 days, or we have a very, very tough road ahead of us.
Union membership in New York is on the decline, but labor leaders say they're confident that meetings like today's will help boost the labor movement.
A lot of people helped comedian Jerry Lewis today. He announced his Labor Day telethon raised a record $34 million for muscular dystrophy research. President Ronald Reagan offered his congratulations in a special telephone call.
I think all Americans join me in realizing what you have been for the last 35 years, president of this volunteer group, and you have 2 million volunteers. And I don't know whether this audience has been told, but all the audience should know that over these years, you have raised well over $200 million for this cause, supporting the Muscular Dystrophy Association.
More than 100 celebrities took part in this year's telethon, which lasted for 21.5 hours. In Seattle, some elementary school students have camping down to a science. They're home away from home this year, the Pacific Museum. Here's the story.
In Seattle, Washington this summer, 450 kids and their leaders share the unique camping experience at the Pacific Science Center.
Pacific Science Center is a living resource, and here's a chance to have a camping experience, an adventure, a chance to socialize with other kids, and really live the museum experience.
The Pacific Science is one of several museums across the country looking for innovative ways to reach out to all different audiences. For many of the 3rd to 6th graders, this was their first visit to a museum. The kids are allowed to spend as much time as they wish exploring the exhibits, plus various workshops are held, teaching them the basics of flight from aeroplanes to kites. They learn about gravity and even mirrors, pulleys, and, of course, camping out. Sleeping in a museum has its unique problems for some.
It's hard to get to sleep because everything's around us. We were sleeping in the middle of about 50 computers.
A lot of playing, learning, and friendships took place. And the kids' reaction to the science camp?
I think these are funner. Just funner.
Mark Wolf, CNN, reporting.
Scores of disgusted beachgoers held an angry rally today in Santa Monica. They're calling for tougher anti-pollution laws and Superfund cleanup money. And until then, they want the beach closed as a public health hazard. Pam Thompson reports.
An environmental group called Heal the Bay, along with surfers, sunbathers, and area residents, got together to demand that the beach be permanently closed near the storm drains. The area has been temporarily closed off and on for years. Just 2 days ago, the beach and water were declared off limits for several hours because a substance that smelled like diesel fuel was coming out of the drain. Today, beachgoers were complaining.
It's just horrible that you can't go swimming right here, especially on Labor Day.
A couple of times this week, last night, I couldn't sleep. I had like dry heaves. When you get out of the water, your body has like a film on it. And when you wash it off, you feel much better.
Assemblyman Tom Hayden says the public should be better informed about exactly what is in the water.
What we ought to do is get you and the media, and I hope to do this starting in January, to announce what the coliform count is in the surf so people can decide if they want to swim. We do that for air pollution. We do that for the weather in general.
Closing the beaches near the storm drains would only be a temporary solution to the problem. The Heal the Bay group would like to see a decrease in the amount of toxic material flowing to the beach, and Assemblyman Hayden feels that with increased regulation, this could be accomplished within the next 5 years. In Santa Monica, Pam Thompson, Channel 5, News at 10.
5 years ago, I didn't exercise. I used to laugh at joggers. And if someone said I'd be running races someday, I'd have said he was crazy.
Attitudes about health have changed, and the Health Plan of America is keeping pace with affordable coverage that not only takes care of major medical problems, but covers the services that can prevent them. You work at keeping healthy. Today's health plan should help you do it. The Health Plan of America. Coverage as modern as the care.
This is one of the world's most expensive motor oils. It meets or exceeds industry standards for protection against wear. So does Haviland. This oil can cost more than twice as much as Haviland. Twice as much?
That's right, twice as much.
Texaco's Haviland Supreme, high-quality protection without the high price. Strike Black Gold. Now save up to $3 on Texaco's Haviland Supreme motor oil. On special sale at these stores and participating Texaco retailers.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. Right now, your Nissan dealer is saying yes to great deals on new cars from Sentras and Stanzas to the awesome 300ZX. And Nissan is now making it even easier to own a new truck by saying yes to 5.7 Nissan-sponsored financing or save with $500 cash back from Nissan. So, come on down to your Nissan dealer now, because he's going to say yes!
Oh, yes. We really want to sell you your next car and your next one.
One can have a dream, baby. Two can make that dream come true. One can wish upon a star. Two can make that wish come true. But it takes two, baby. Just takes two to make a dream come true.
Easy Match, the newest scratch-off game. Match 2 like amounts and win up to $100,000 or a chance at the big spin.
It takes two, baby.
Play Easy Match.
Just takes two.
This is Channel 5, KTLA, Tribune Broadcasting in Los Angeles. This portion of the news at 10 is brought to you by General Foods International Coffees to celebrate the moments of your life.
Keith Olbermann is here now with sports, and it looks like the Angels lucked out.
I was just thinking that before. It looked like they lucked out. Indeed, they did, Al. This was the symbolic start of the pennant drive for the Angels, and symbolically speaking, it was much better to be lucky than good. Second inning at Anaheim this afternoon, and the Angels are neither lucky nor good as John Shelby's base hit off Mike Witt skips past George Hendrick in right field. Tra-la, tra-la. Shelby gets a double. Hendrick an error. The Orioles a run. Benitez scores from first. It's 1-0. Same inning, 2-0 now. 2 on, and Eddie Murray, who if he played here every day would already be in the Hall of Fame, socks Witt for a 3-run homer over the 404 sign 5-0. That essentially is that. Angels being blanked by Scott McGregor into the 6th when Dick Schofield sends Fred Lynn dashing in center. Watch Fred meet the wall. This will be a theme today. Grich scores on the triple. It's 6-1. In the 8th, George Hendrick will attain a statistic. His 11th homer of the year, 8-2 O's, but the game is Baltimore's. Nevertheless, there was a subplot, dueling kamikaze center fielders. Gary Pettis with Devon White on the team now gives it his all on the Cal Ripken drive. Introduces himself to the fence. Then the rookie White trying to prove himself Gary's equal. That hurts. So Gary says, well, if you can do it once, I'll do it twice, and I won't even hurt myself, and I'll catch the ball. Angels lose, but not to worry. After the game, they called up 7 players from Edmonton to fill the expanded roster, Ray Chadwick included, Ron Romanic not included. See you, Ron. Here's the lucky part. Red Sox overcome a 2-zip Texas lead to win. The Rangers still 5.5 out. Toronto wins. Minnesota victorious. So too Detroit despite 3 Jim Presley homers. Oakland hangs on, and Floyd Bannister shuts out KC. Oh, Floyd. At Montreal tonight, the Dodgers blew 2 leads and 1 tie, which, of course, is down significantly from their season average. They had that fire in the tower at Olympic Stadium, so they put a net under it. That'll be a big help if the tower falls over, right? Greg Brock gave the Dodgers their first lead of the night, an opposite field 2-run homer in the first off Dennis, not quite a major leaguer, Martinez. It is 2-zip Dodgers. But Alejandro Pena gives those runs back. Dodgers then scratch for 3 more in the third. Stubbs doubling into the corner and right. In comes Len Matuzek, and it's 5-2. But Pena gave 2 of those runs back, and by the 7th, it's 5-5. Law singles off Howell to score Dawson. Expos have their first lead. But in the 9th, 1 out, and Ralph Bryant, back up from Albuquerque, makes the Jeff Reardon pitch back up, his first big league homer. Dodgers 6, Expos 6. What does Howell do? He loads the bases. Then Dennis Powell faces Tom Foley, and he delivers the cheapest game-winning RBI single in human history. 7-6 Expos. And now we know why the net's there. It's for Lasorda's benefit just in case. They're installing them all around the league. To calculate the Dodgers' tragic numbers, simply figure out the total quantity of games they're likely to lose, like the one they did tonight the rest of the year. 20 more losses or Houston wins, and they're gone. Astros picked up another game on Frisco. Giants under 500 all of a sudden. Reds stay 7 out by beating the Pirates. Cardinals win, and at Philly, the Pods lose. There was a meeting between management and Goose Gossage today, but no one said anything, which, judging by recent events, is probably just as well. In the first week at the U.S. Open, every American men's seed had been defeated, but all the women's matches had seemingly gone as per schedule. And today, the upset gremlins switched genders. Defending champ Hannah Mandlikova, don't worry, I don't know what my introduction meant either. Hannah versus Wendy Turnbull, and watch Wendy go for the pop-up, only to fall victim to Hannah's cross shot. Tied 1 set apiece with Turnbull up 4-3 in the third. Wendy serving, and she has Mandlikova doing the work here, going chasing. But Turnbull had to really work for herself with a long-distance smash, 5-3 Turnbull. And then Hannah just ran out of gas. She's serving, and after the serve, she goes to the net and just flubs what proves to be match point. Turnbull knocks off Hannah and her sisters in 3. No surprise for Martina, though. Among the men, Lendl easily over the last remaining U.S. seed, Brad Gilbert, turning American hopes over to Tim Wilkison. Now, who is this? Is this guy your auto mechanic? No, it's Dr. Dirt, Tim Wilkison, versus the unshaven Russian, Andrei Chesnikov. Sounds like pro wrestling. And it looks like it, too. To go up 5-3 in the third and final set, Wilkison will have to lunge on his knees to hit the winner. They really do call him Dr. Dirt. Then at match point for the good doctor, the berth in the quarterfinals awaiting. Wilkison in the far court. You can spot that hat 8 miles away. A backhand passer here to win. And then we have in the stands Mrs. Wilkison, and of course, she too is wearing a baseball hat. Well, a visor. Finally, Labor Day turned into You Don't Labor For Us Anymore day in the NFL. Final cutdowns, the Raiders dropping Jack Squirek and Brad Van Pelt. The Rams waived several fringe guys. Around the league, the Packers waived the passing combo of Lynn Dickey and Paul Kaufman. Miami squished 3 killer bees, Kim Bocamper, Jay Brophy, and Lyle Blackwood. But in San Francisco, the unkindest cut of all, the 49ers put Wendell Tyler on injured reserve after he turned down their offer to pay him $200,000 if he'd retire. I don't know, Hal. I'd consider it.
Hey, find out where they make those offers.
That's right.
We'll be right back. We have more late news for you. We have the story of the aftermath of a train wreck that took place in Ohio and a light plane crash in New Hampshire. That airplane went down on a busy highway. We'll have that story and the weather picture for you next on News at 10.
I still can't believe how amazing you are. So sweet dreams, little Katie. And sweet dreams for me, too. Because I'm about to have something so rich, so creamy.
General Foods International Coffee's Cafe Vienna with the spicy sweetness of cinnamon. Unlike anything else, turning quiet time into a quiet celebration.
Celebrate the moments of your life.
With General Foods International Coffees.
Go shot for shot with a formidable opponent. Find out what you're made of. That's the communications game MCI plays every day. MCI competes by investing over $1 billion a year to keep our network the industry's most modern. We know our competition's good. We have to be better. And because we compete, you win. MCI. Communications for the next 100 years.
Great news from K-Light 100 FM. Now at K-Light 100, we're playing even more of the songs you love. More variety. All the easygoing favorites of yesterday and today in rich, clear stereo. K-Light 100 FM. Continuous, light, relaxing music without a lot of talk. Turn to the light in the middle of the dial. K-Light 100 FM. All music, all memories.
First, step up. Plant your feet firmly on the ground and address the ball. Hello, ball.
This fall, a KTLA premiere. The Honeymooners Lost Episodes.
It can't be.
But it is. A regular riot. Buried treasure unseen for 30 years. The Honeymooners premieres September 8th on Channel 5.
In New Hampshire, a small plane crashed on a busy highway, killing one person and injuring 3 others on board. Now, traffic was backed up for miles along the interstate, a major road connecting Boston with several vacation spots. The single-engine Piper Cherokee clipped power lines as it fell to the concrete. Authorities think the pilot was trying to make an emergency landing on a nearby golf course. The plane slid several hundred feet but managed to avoid hitting anyone on the ground. And in Ohio, 150 residents evacuated because of dangerous fumes leaking from a derailed train are back home tonight. 4 cars of a freight train left the tracks while being moved in a switching yard in the town of Willard. The accident caused one tank to leak deadly hydrochloric acid, but the evacuations were prompt and no injuries were reported. Let's take a look at the weather picture now. Here's T.U. Lee. T.U.
It's been nice this weekend. Mother Nature didn't take the weekend off here in the Southland. She worked hard to give us some great weather this Labor Day holiday. Not only have daytime highs been very comfortable, but air quality, too, problems, I should say, have been kept to a minimum. The next couple of days promise to continue comfortable with temperatures warming up a bit later this week. Well, the Weather Service says a weak coastal eddy has been promoting a stronger onshore flow and the very pleasant afternoon temperatures. And like today, the marine layer will extend into the valleys tomorrow morning. Across the country, a stationary front reaching from central Texas to the South Atlantic coast spread showers and thunderstorms over much of that area and parts of the Ohio and Tennessee valleys. Heavy rain over Texas triggered flooding there. Showers and thunderstorms were also scattered over the central and northern plains and the Rockies. Along with the cloudy skies, cool temperatures were common in the area. And if you're heading to the east tomorrow, you might want to take a raincoat. The Weather Service forecasts rain from the Dakotas to Texas throughout the southeast and the mid-Atlantic coast states. Rain also predicted for Pennsylvania, New York, and New Jersey. Well, here at home on this Labor Day, 82 was the high in Los Angeles, 65 last night's low. The late night, early morning low clouds and fog will give way to a sunny and warm day as most of us head back to work. 82 tomorrow in Hollywood, low to mid-80s in the valleys, and a mostly sunny afternoon at the beaches where highs will be in the 70s, surfs averaging 2 to 3 feet at all beaches. Clear and cool tonight in the mountains and deserts, sunny and warm tomorrow with gusty afternoon and evening winds at times. A high at Palm Springs will be 105 and 70s at the mountain resorts. And no first stage smog alerts predicted tomorrow. Ozone levels are predicted to be unhelpful for sensitive people only in some of the inland valley areas. So a sunny, hazy, and warm day to look forward to after the morning low clouds burn off. 83 the Civic Center high, 64 the low. Well, tonight's slide almost needs no introduction, the fabulous skyline of Paris at night. And many thanks to Paul Kirsten of Huntington Beach for sharing this with us. If you have a 35mm slide to submit, KTLA News, P.O. Box 500, LA 90078 is the place to send them. The Weather Service says September often brings some of the warmest days of the year to the coastal and valley sections of Southern California, so we may yet see some record or near record heat. But for the first part of this month, things are starting off quite comfortable.
Yeah, I think, as I recall, the hottest day ever in the history of Los Angeles was in the month of September.
Well, I'm glad.
Now, don't ask me exactly what that year was, but I think the temperature was about 110 degrees.
That's hot.
It was back in the... Anyway.
The 39, someone said.
1839, right. In North Hollywood, hundreds of union members took advantage of the holiday to hold an old-fashioned picnic. The Los Angeles County Federation of Labor sponsored the event. Union members and their families gathered to enjoy hot dogs, soft drinks, and beer. Some listened to political speeches, while others preferred musical entertainment. Well, the rest just enjoyed a well-deserved day off.
Hey, tell the family about it. Come back.
And we'll return in just a moment. We have a late update for you. And, well, these are the days that the kids go back to school. And just what do you think is high on the list of things to get? We'll show you after this brief break.
Look, it's not your fault. Most any food or drink can cause bad breath, even a cheeseburger. You need Clorettes. Only Clorettes has Actisol with chlorophyll to clean up bad breath fast. Clorettes. Because you have bad breath more often than you think.
Calcium loss. It can lead to osteoporosis. That's why there's Supplical, the only soft and chewy square with all the calcium your bones need to help stay strong and healthy. Supplical, soft calcium for strong bones.
The dream is still alive across America to find a way to make a better day. If the good life is a promise you've been making to yourself, we're right behind you. We'll help you find a way.
announcers, everything must go race. Weekend race from a rock-bottom 1996 a day. T-Birds priced to fly just $37.90 weekdays. And low weekly rates like $99 in California. So hurry and reserve your car now. Because with all of Hertz services, at these low rates, cars are going fast.
Hertz, you don't just rent a car, you rent a company.
Look, it's not your fault. Most any food or drink can cause bad breath, even a cheeseburger. You need Chlorets. Only Chlorets has Actisol with chlorophyll to clean up bad breath fast. Chlorets, because you have bad breath more often than you think.
Calcium loss. It can lead to osteoporosis. That's why there's Supplical, the only soft and chewy square with all the calcium your bones need to help stay strong and healthy. Supplical, soft calcium for strong bones.
Updating our news now, American scientists studying the eruption of deadly volcanic gases in Cameroon reported today that carbon dioxide is the cause for thousands of deaths and injuries. The tragedy that occurred about a week ago left many survivors with acid burns all over their bodies. The experts say that carbon dioxide inhalation is the reason why so many people remained unconscious long after the gas cloud passed. To you.
Well, Hal, across the nation, millions of children are preparing to go back to school. Well, nowadays, even the youngest seem to be old hands at planning the power lunch.
Even for 6-year-old Justin Miller, getting ready for the first day of school is a question of image, particularly when it comes to picking out a lunchbox. You like that one?
Pretty boring.
Pretty boring. Okay. Well, what are you looking for that's a little more exciting in the way of a lunchbox?
The new Transformer sign on the back of the box, and, that's about all.
Cabbage Patch craze is uncool for older kids going back to school. Now the garbage pail kids are all the rage.
Oh, he just pushed a button. His head, top of his head blew.
They make fun of Cabbage Patch Kids. Yeah, that's what I think it is. If people don't like Cabbage Patch Kids, they need to make fun of them.
The absolutely hottest new back-to-school fad is makeup for little girls between the 1st and 6th grades. And this isn't candy lipstick. This is real, hypoallergenic, adult women's makeup. Talk about growing up fast. Well, childhood was always known to be brief. These back-to-school days, it seems briefer than ever. For the Independent News, Barry Cunningham in Fairfax, Virginia.
And that's News at 10 for tonight. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow, and do have a good night.